Believe it or not, this is my 1-year anniversary video, and I've now been on this channel for 2 years. What a way to celebrate. Anyways, I've been wanting to remake this for a while, mainly because my original video is beyond unorganized, and honestly, for me, it's unwatchable. So who is Nicktendo? Let's find out.
Not as powerful as me when I go Super Saiyan!
You don't want to see my final form. I'm too hunky.
Nicktendo, for those of you who don't know about him, or SML's history in general, is an SML animator. He started making his first few bits of content about FNAF fan games for some reason, but then eventually he moved on to making animations about DreamWorks movies for some reason. And he did seem to enjoy making them, and even though he was a lot younger and they were a lot worse back then, I can't really talk shit about them that much. Again, he was younger. Eventually, though, he made his very first SML animation for Jeffy Sneaks Out. This animation is also really bad, but hey, he even admits it in his intro. And a smaller audience at the time liked it, and heck, even Logan seemed to notice how popular this was getting, even though in my opinion he still should have gone with Michael Batista. Anyways, though, his channel would start growing rapidly from 1,000 subs to 10,000, and later in the latter half of 2017, he did his first collab, I think, with Logan in the monster animation, where he animated the story portion of it, and as you can see, it still sucks, but there was still room for improvement, right? I mean, he animated for Logan again in Jeffy Sleepover, after all, which was also one of Logan's worst videos of 2018. Huh. Things are just gonna get worse, aren't they? Unfortunately, yes.
Not as powerful as me when I go Super Saiyan!
You don't want to see my final form. I'm too hunky.
So Nickendo's fans don't seem open to realize how bad his animations actually are, and they just defend him. Hell, I've even seen Nicktendo saying himself he just makes content for his fans to enjoy, which is respectable, but when they can't realize what's wrong with it and they just accept whatever's thrown at them, even when someone criticizes him, that's just a bit ridiculous. The way Nicktendo feels in regards to how critics act is completely backwards. He seems to think they just give him advice and just enjoy his content regardless.
We have, let's call them the critics. Those are the people who enjoy watching my animations, but they give me advice in the comments on how I can improve. Like, let's say they want me to change a character model, and I'll do it.
Now, to some extent, the enjoyment part is true if they were not to find many flaws, but no, critics are meant to judge something and criticize any aspect that's bad or something they don't like. In his rant, he also states that he makes, or at least used to make, 2 animations a week in about 5 to 8 hours. He draws them in MS Paint and puts them in a movie maker, which really shows, honestly. He says the people who hate him have never made an animation in their life, which I disagree with because your animations are dreadful to look at. You don't need super detailed characters all the time, but at least a style. You're trying way too hard to recreate the characters with bumpy lines and barely any shading whatsoever. You can't tell people that they haven't made an animation when yours looks so awful. Look, I'm not on board with calling his fans retarded or doing any other malicious things that some of his haters might do, but what I am on board with is fair criticism. So let's do that, shall we?
Not as powerful as me when I go Super Saiyan!
You don't want to see my final form. I'm too hunky.
I feel the time we should start talking about his animations were from Jeffy Sleepover to now. First, there's barely any shading on the characters wherever they seem to be, and there's not even shining details, or even then, not much of them. Checking his newer videos, he has implemented these changes I just mentioned, so at least there was a good change in that department. The character designs, however, look like poorly drawn shapes mashed together, although I would have probably been more okay with them looking like shapes if they again weren't mashed together and looked a lot more clean. Just stop trying to replicate them so closely because you obviously can't unless you're actually skilled enough. Now, to some extent, they look slightly similar, but there's something uncanny about them. Something about how they're shaped and the way they move making them look pretty stiff whenever they jolt from side to side. Animators like Michael Batista, who, well, doesn't make SML animations anymore, still has accurate designs of them, but also his own unique style, making them feel a lot more lively. Karen Animates, who makes them look a lot more human-like and move very smoothly. CMB Animations looks even better, even though there's no new content on that channel anymore. Scrumpy, who makes a more cutesy style, The Greatest Leafimations, who makes very nice looking animatics, Seggy and Narwhals, who are both great Gmod animators. You see how crowded this is? Yet these people all make themselves stand out from each other with their creative styles, and while I would say Nicktendo has improved dramatically both in quality and style, there are still issues. He does actually animate their legs now, thank God, but he also adds a weird goofy style to them in their expressions, which does look distinct and alright at times, but it also can look really horrifying like this. He has changed the characters, but he's still trying to replicate them too damn hard. The mouth movements actually look less detailed because at one point he used a single drawing and repeated it, then he added teeth and tongue details, but now it's just mouth open, mouth closed. And it looks good, but also it's pretty boring to look at. there are more body movements for the characters, which I think looks nice, but honestly, all of these new added details, it's just too late.
Not as powerful as me when I go Super Saiyan!
You don't want to see my final form. I'm too hunky.
After all the times he got criticized by people, he now changes. It took this long for actual noticeable improvements. Sadly, this is the story of a guy who never listened to anyone and let the attention he got go to his head way too fast. This unfortunately can happen to anyone. It's sad, really, because he could have helped make certain videos be more entertaining. Because in Logan's videos, there are story time or flashback parts, which seems like fun, but while I think he's passable now, it's still too late. With Logan's content going downhill and Nicktendo barely improving in time, this just ends up being a recipe for disaster. By the way, before this video ends, I would like to bring up an important update regarding the Swift situation. I was very wrong about Samuel saying those racist messages. They were inspected, so he never actually said those things. Samuel and Chaos made up, but then they split apart as expected. But I will say to Samuel, I'm sorry for making that mistake. It just made him look a lot worse than he actually was. He was still a dick in that situation, but I just made him look way worse than he actually was. So I'm sorry for that. Anyways, I'm SML Continuity, signing off.